Hello, my name is James and welcome to Mirror Domains, and this is Best of the Decade Countdown Year in Review for 2013. Now, if you don't know that this is a part of a series, it is. It's, everybody's doing their Best of the Year lists here, and probably the best of the decade too. So I figured, well, I'm going to do my best of the decade, and I was going through and reviewing each year, and I figured I'll let you guys come along with me and just see my process as I look at and recap the movies that came out in 2013, in which I will pick the top 3 that I think should be considered for best of the decade, and I will pick the worst 2 for the worst of the decade. That will be all compiled here at the end of the month, and we'll have it all in a big video and a nice little playlist for you guys to watch. I don't expect a lot of people to watch it right now until it's all said and done, but if you want to see my experience, how I'm evaluating this, I thought I'd bring you along. So I'm not going to ramble on here because these do take a while to get through, because I do like to talk about movies. And I'm just going to pull up a nice little list here that'll show you the posters and such and the release dates. And let's just get to it. Okay, January 4th, 2013. Let's begin. I'm just going to pick at things that jump out at me. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Yeah, I think this is where I started to get off the boat with the Texas Chainsaw reboots. The 3D, just no, I don't need to see that in 3D. I was kind of like, this is where I was really starting to put my foot down and say, no more 3D for me. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm done with it. I will if I have to, but I didn't want to for that. A Haunted House. Oh, but yeah. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for people who did see it, may be on the worst list for some people. A Haunted House, never saw it. Gangster Squad. This was a movie that was delayed because of a theater shooting, and there was a scene in this movie where there was a theater shooting, and they had to delay it and recut the ending. A lot of people were anticipating it. I kind of liked it. It wasn't spectacular, but Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. I like that pairing. So it's a curiosity if you haven't seen it. It's not on the worst list. It could be for some. Broken City. Yeah, I never saw that. I heard about it and I just never. Oh, Mama. Yes. A horror movie here. Muschietti, right? This is the guy who directed it, and this is him working with Jessica Chastain. And it's kind of an interesting little horror movie. It's not on the best or worst list. I just wanted to note it because there's some curious things going on where they could have used CG or practical effects. And if you see some of the behind the scenes stuff of the practical stuff, it's kind of interesting. The Last Stand. Now, this is one of Arnold's first movies back in front of the camera, I believe, after he had his political run. And I missed it in the theater, which is a shame, because after I went back and revisited it, it's actually kind of a fun little action movie. Now, you thought maybe because Knoxville was going to be in there, Johnny Knoxville from Jackass and such, that it would be kind of like an obnoxious kind of thing, but it's not. It's a nice little dialed back little action film, small and contained, and I enjoyed it. It's not on the best, but it's also not on the worst. Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. That's a nice little fun little romp. They always talked about making a sequel, but here we are 6 years later and nothing has happened, so I don't think that's going to come into fruition. Movie 43 will definitely be on the worst list for a lot of people. Movie 43 was just an amalgamation of a lot of scenes that people had kind of stitched together. A lot of people are ashamed to be even associated with that project. I started to watch it. I could only get halfway through it, and that's why when I started to do these best and worst list, which you can see on my YouTube channel. I'll leave links to those up in the cards above. The really, really cringeworthy best and worst. Before I had a good camera, before I knew about color correction, it's really bad, but it's fun. Kind of like this movie. It was bad. I couldn't finish watching it, so I didn't put it on my worst list, because if I can't finish watching it, I can't say that, yeah, for sure, but it's just so awful that I would just, this is where I started to make the distinction of, okay, there has to be a limit here with what I'm going to force myself to watch. And movie 43, that's where I said, well, okay, yeah, no, there's going to be movies where I'm just not even going to bother with them. But yeah, that's going to be the number one worst movie of the year for a lot of people, for sure. Parker, never saw it. Bullet to the Head, Stallone, nice little action film. I like that. Who else was the bad guy? Aquaman was the bad guy in that, wasn't he? Yeah. Momoa, was he the bad guy? I think he was, or at least he was one of the henchmen. Or maybe I'm thinking of the wrong Stallone movie. Okay, continuing on. Warm Bodies, charming little zombie love story. Yeah, I like that one. Okay. Identity Thief, never saw it. Side Effects, Soderbergh. That one's going to be noteworthy. I don't think, it'll be on one of the best lists of the year. It's kind of an interesting little take of the pharmaceutical companies, how they are like giving people drugs that are not fully tested and experimented on, and then there's like a murder mystery kind of thing going on. Very curious. Rooney Mara, of course, is in it, and I liked her for that. And we get to see Channing Tatum being in more of a dramatic role, and I like that. So yeah, Side Effects. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Beautiful Creatures. This one, it was trying to capitalize on the youth, the teen kind of romance era that happened where, they were taking every book franchise and turning it into movies. And this one wasn't very well received, but I actually kind of enjoyed it. I like the cast. And I just like the feel, the tone of it. I'm fairly generous to it. Okay, Die Hard 5. That's going to end up on the worst list for a lot of people, and definitely for me. This was just an atrocity. I mean, there's no way that Jai Courtney looks like... Oh, my God. Bruce Willis. No. It was just an atrocity in every aspect. I don't know what they were thinking, and this is where Bruce Willis was just phoning in all of his performances, and it was just kind of like... Ugh! Yeah, that's going to be on the worst list for the year for sure. Escape from Planet Earth. I never saw it. Dark Skies. Now, this one I did see, and I did like this one because it was like aliens that were, experimenting and taking people, and you could see them. They're like cloaked. And I like that idea that there could be one sitting right out there, but it's cloaked and you can't see it. And then like a bird may fly into it and hit it. And that's your only clue that there's something there. I like that aspect of it, but it just kind of fell flat in the third act. Snitch, Dwayne Johnson, acting in a dramatic, more of a dramatic role than a action piece, because that's kind of what he was pigeonholed it for, action, thrillers, that kind of thing. And he still is, but this was kind of like a first step towards getting him towards a more of a dramatic role so he could try to stretch himself as an actor and get more of an experience. It's a nice little film. I think you guys will enjoy it. 21 and over. I don't think I saw that one. Crazy Stupid Love will be on the best list for a lot of people. Very funny, a big cast. Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone. Yeah, good chemistry between those two. It's just really, really good. It's a lot of fun. And especially there's some scenes in it towards the end where things play out with Kevin Bacon, and it's just kind of like, it's got some really laugh out loud moments. Crazy Stupid Love will be on the best list of the year for sure. Jack the Giant Slayer, Bryan Singer, Ewan McGregor, a lot of CG. This is where they thought maybe they could do full CG characters, and have it pulled off in such a way that you're like, yeah, I believe that. No, you don't believe that. It wasn't a good movie, and it wasn't a good, visually stunning film. That's going to be on the worst list for sure. The Last Exorcism. Now, I saw this one, and it was just a small little horror. I think it worked for me for the most part, but it was nothing too noteworthy. Leviathan. Did I see Leviathan? It was a foreign film, wasn't it? Stoker. No. The Last Exorcism Part 2. The Condemned, Steve Dawson. Is that a WWE film? I can't remember. Let's continue on here. Nothing that's jumping out at me. Oz and the Great and Powerful Sam Raimi. This was a curious project because even though that it was Disney, they were not allowed to use any of the story elements from the original Wizard of Oz because I think like the original source material is everybody's free to use it. It's like what do they call that? After a certain amount of time passes, it's a story that just goes into the ether that everybody's allowed to draw from. But everybody recognized the Wizard of Oz, where they used certain things in there. They added to it where they couldn't use those elements because that stuff was copyrighted. And I liked it simply because Mila Kunis, right? This was an interesting role for her to take. And yeah, that could be on the worst list for a lot of people, just because it fell flat for a lot of people. James Franco is the wizard. ABCs of Death. Ooh, okay. That's a noteworthy film. John Schnepp from Collider fame directed an episode of that. Yeah, it's worth seeing just simply for that reason. And that reason alone. It's just like a small collage of little segments of horror shorts. Okay, continuing on. Nothing else I see there that jumps out at me. Spring Breakers. Okay, so this one I saw in the theater, and I felt like, Selena Gomez, James Franco, a bunch of girls go down south to have the spring break on the beach party, and everything gets out of control. It's a visceral film. A lot of people liked it for that aspect. I felt like I don't like to see young people get that corrupted without a proper guide. And it's a tale of tragedy, but they're also trying to make it seem like, hey, it's cool, man. Hey, young people do this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, I don't know. It was mixed. It's not on the worst. It's not on the best, but you got to just be aware of it. The Call. Yeah, I like that. I liked it. Halle Berry is like a 911 operator that tries to walk somebody through who's being kidnapped and they're in the back of the trunk or something like that. Is that the way it goes? Yeah. The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. Now this one we have to talk about because this one's going to be on my worst list and it could be on people's best list for the funny factor. This is again one of those movies where I know a lot of people will say, James, what are you talking about? That was funny. But it's kind of like Bridesmaids, where it's kind of like, okay, you're telling me that this is a funny movie, but then you show me that they're also trying to put in a little bit of a dramatic edge to it. Like, this guy is obviously somebody who has a distorted view of reality. And it's very obvious. That's not funny. That's not funny to me. It'll never be funny to me. Yeah, it's just, I didn't like it. Worst list of the year for sure. For me, at least. Okay, continuing on. Anything else that jumps out at me? Olympus Has Fallen. One of the first movies there that came out with a bodyguard, like Die Hard in the White House. Gerard Butler. I didn't mind it, right? Yeah. White House Down was the other one. That one was terrible. G.I. Joe 2, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson comes in and tries to save the G.I. Joe franchise. Hey, at least they made Cobra Commander look somewhat the right way that he's supposed to. But it still fell flat. It was just kind of like, meh. They kill off most of the Joes in the beginning of the movie. What were you thinking? Okay, Place Beyond the Pines. This is going to be on the best list of the year for sure, for me. Ryan Gosling plays like this bank robber. It's an interesting story because it happens in 3 parts. And like they're 3 short movies, but they all connect with each other. You see the bank robber side, then you see the cops side played by Bradley Cooper, I think. You see his perspective on things. And then it's kind of like there's another story with Dane DeHaan, who's the son of the robber, who becomes son with the cop's son. It's just a very interesting film, the way that it's told, and I do like the way that it kind of has things that rhyme with each other, like you know, the way that the father and son kind of do follow down somewhat of the same path. Very interesting. And that's going to be on the best list of the year for sure. Room 237. Room 237 is it's a documentary about the Shining. That's not going to be on the best list of the year, but I just wanted to note it because it is kind of an interesting film. They take this conspiracy theory that, that Kubrick, I think this is the one where they suggest that he, shot the moon landings and he hid secrets to that all within The Shining. And this movie kind of explores that. It's kind of an interesting little film, even though, you got to take it with a grain of salt, obviously. The host, Saoirse Ronan, this introduced me to her. This is one of those movies I was trying to capitalize on the teen flicks that were built from books. I actually liked this movie quite a bit, actually. It took me by surprise, even though it has a lot of cliches and tropes in there that are kind of like, I just felt because Saoirse Ronan did such a good job in it, she carried me through it, and I liked it. I liked it for that. And I like this, like the scope of these weird aliens taking over your bodies. It was supposed to be kind of like a horrific thing, but they didn't turn it into a horrific thing. I like the ideas explored in there. Evil Dead, the remake. Oh, yeah, this one. This one, I liked it. I don't think it's going to be on my best or worst list, but it's worth noting because they tried to make it more of a serious tone. You know how the first ones had kind of a campy feel to it. It was horror for sure, but it was also there was fun. This one tried to take out all the fun. And was it Jessica Lucas was in this too, right? Was it Jessica Lucas? Yeah, I like that one. It was interesting. It was worth a watch. Just for mere curiosity. Okay, scroll on. 42, Chadwick Boseman. Yep. Scary Movie 5 may be on the worst list for a lot of people. Scrolling on. Lords of Salem. Rob Zombie. Now, this is going to be on the worst list of the year for sure for me. This was one that was a passion project of his that he had been working on for a long time. So, he just finished doing the Halloween movies, and I was like, yeah, okay, I can see that he's got an eye. He's got a flavor. He's got a style. And this movie, I was expecting something where it would be a lot more horrific, but it's more of an art house take. And I found jarring. And of course, the ending is completely absurd with some kind of lobster baby. Now, that's all I want to say about it. Oblivion, Tom Cruise. This one was going to fly under the radar for a lot of people. A lot of people will miss it. It had some stunning visuals. It's not on the worst list. Some people may put it on the worst list. It's definitely not on the best list, but it was just an interesting little film. It's nowhere as bad as some people were saying that it was. I would definitely say, yeah, check it out. All right, Mud. Yeah. Matthew McConaughey. It's got some very familiar faces from some younger kids that you may recognize now. I think it's Ty Sheridan. He plays Cyclops in the newer X-Men movies that are now done. But anyway, this movie is kind of interesting. He plays this drifter that mentors these young kids. It's a coming-of-age story. Pain and Gain. That movie may be on the worst list for some people because just of the way that it was handled. It was Michael Bay. There was a bunch of murders that happened, and they tried to glamorize it a little bit. I didn't think it was over the top glamorizing, but yeah, I mean, it didn't handle it in the best of respects. That, yeah, some actual real people died here, guys. Come on. Iron Man 3. Maybe on the worst list for some people because it was so disappointing because of the twist. The Mandarin really isn't the Mandarin. Whatever. It wasn't on the best and wasn't on the worst. I'm going to try to speed this up, guys. We're only in May. Okay. Aftershock. Great Gatsby. Yeah. That could be on the worst list because of the visuals. I liked it. Star Trek Into Darkness, maybe on the best list for some people, maybe on the worst. J.J. Abrams tries to say that, no, he's not playing Khan. Benedict Cumberbatch is not playing Khan, but yeah, he is. And then in hindsight, when you actually reflect upon that movie, was it really all that good? Was it? When I first saw it, I thought it was one of the best movies of the year, but now I'm thinking about it years later, and I'm like, no. Before Midnight, part of that series. A lot of people like that series. Hangover 3 may be on the worst list for a lot of people. Fast and Furious 6 was pretty good. I like that one. But then I was starting to question, okay, is that the one where he jumps in midair, catches her, and then they land down on... yeah, that's one where it was starting to get a little over the top, and then I realized it's a shtick. Okay, you got me for the shtick, and I'm going to stick around for one more because it was Paul Walker's last one, and that's where okay. After Earth definitely will be on the worst list for a lot of people. Shyamalan, they didn't even market it as Shyamalan's movie because by then people were starting to really turn up their noses. And Will Smith was still trying to get his kids into the scene, and it fell flat for a lot of people. Not very good. Kings of Summer, maybe an art house film, maybe on some people's best list. Now You See Me, nice little caper film of magicians pulling off a heist. It was kind of an interesting film. Isla Fisher, of course. Ooh, yeah. Continuing on, The King. Did I see that? No. Atlantic Rim. Never saw it. Much Ado About Nothing. The Purge. The first Purge. Yeah, that one was good. Not on the best and worst list of the year. Internship will be on the worst list for the year for sure. That one was terrible. The Purge, though, I like that one because people were expecting it to be this big, huge thing because the premise is so large, right? But then it's just this dialed back kind of house invasion story. Okay, Man of Steel. That'll be on the best list of the year for a lot of people. It won't be for me. It could be on the worst list for some people. A very interesting Superman film. I liked a lot of the stuff in the beginning, but I didn't like the way that they revisited some of the stuff, like the way that his father died. I felt like the best thing about the first Superman is that his father died from a heart attack, which is something that all his abilities, all his powers, he could have never have saved him. There was nothing he could have done. Man of Steel, hey, I'm standing in a tornado, but don't come save me. It's kind of like, you can save him. You could have saved him. He had the abilities to save him, but it's more controversial. It's more epic if he says that he reserved his ability. No, that's not, it didn't have the impact of him saying, well, there's some things that he can't fix. He can't do. And it missed the mark for a lot of people, and a lot of people liked it though. If that's you, then so be it. Bling Ring, Emma Watson. Whew. This is the end. I missed it in theater. Could be on the best list for a lot of people. It will be on mine because it was a comedy. I felt like the comedy in that was fairly good. It was just kind of like like this huge epic cast that came together to tell this tale of the apocalypse, of the rapture. And it did have some good laughs. Definitely for sure. Saw 3D, Saw 7. Could be on the worst list for a lot of people. It was not that good. World War Z will be on my best list of the year for sure. Maybe even top 3, guys, because I wasn't expecting what I was going to see with Brad Pitt in this. And you heard that this one had a whole bunch of production problems, that they went back for reshoots. They reshot like 60% of it. And the ending they got totally redid, and it worked for me. It worked. I revisited it like a couple months ago, and I was like, that's a good little flick. I liked it. And it's too bad that the sequel never got off the ground. There were talks about it. Even David Fincher was going to come on to the sequel. How could you mess that up, guys? Byzantium. Gemma Arterton and Saoirse Ronan are vampires. Yeah, you guys got to check that out. The Heat. Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. Now, this is one of the first ones that I actually started to like Melissa McCarthy, because everybody liked her in Bridesmaids, but this one I felt like there was nice chemistry between Bullock and McCarthy. It had its laughs. White House Down. This is the other one that I was talking about. It was kind of like Die Hard in the White House, and this one just fell flat. Who was that? The same guy who did Godzilla and Independence Day, Roland Emmerich. Yeah, not very good. Bad script. Lone Ranger definitely will be on the worst list of the year for sure because I don't know what they were smoking. Johnny Depp is supposed to be playing, a Native American, and then it was just long, very boring. And I'm sorry, Armie Hammer, you're not a leading man. You were just so dry. Bad script too. All right, that'll be on the worst. The Way Back, a nice little indie coming-of-age story. I think that'll be on a lot of people's best list of the year, but it's not going to be in the top 3. Fruitvale Station, maybe in the top 3 for some people. It really introduced us to the guy who played the lead in that, who's also in Creed. Why am I drawing a blank on that? Oh, God, James. Everybody's in love with this guy. Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, that may be on a lot of people's best list. Pacific Rim is going to be on my best list. Guillermo del Toro doing this big robots against big monsters movie. It had his humor, it had his style, his flair. It's going to be on my best list. Grown Ups 2, maybe on a lot of people's worst list. I never even bothered with it. Okay. We're only middle of the year. We got to speed up. Blackfish. Good documentary. Only God Forgives. When Nicholas Winding Refn. Very strange. No, it was too over the top with his flavor and it didn't land. It was very boring. The Conjuring, one of the better horror movies of the decade for sure. That's going to be on the best list. Is it going to be in the top 3? No, but it'll be in the top 5, I think. Red 2, very boring, very bad. That may be on the worst list because of, I fell asleep in the theater watching it, which is a bummer. Blue Jasmine, art house film. And it's going to be on a lot of people's best list of the year because, Cate Blanchett's performance in it was, very good. The Wolverine, yeah. That was James Mangold. I can't believe that one's been so long. I thought it was the Wolverine. This is the one where he goes to Japan, right? It was okay. It wasn't that spectacular. Two Guns. Yeah, no. Sharknado could be on the worst list of the year, but it was, you know what it is. It's schlock. It's spectacular now. No. Monsters. Yeah, that could be on people's best list. It's not the best of the year, but it does noteworthy because it was just kind of like a small little indie film, and it just introduced us to Gareth Edwards, who was the director of King Kong and Rogue One. That was his first big one that jumped out at people. Okay, Elysium. Yeah, Neil Blomkamp's follow-up. A lot of people were anticipating that one. I didn't mind it. It had some good moments. It had some very interesting ideas. Lovelace, Amanda Seyfried plays yeah. You'll find that one interesting. Okay, we're moving now at a faster pace. This is the pace I need to go through. Kick-Ass 2, maybe on the worst list for some people. It was the follow-up to a movie that a lot of people like, Kick-Ass. They were expecting some good things. Jim Carrey was in this one. Come on, what could go wrong? Lots of things, and if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The Butler, art house film. You think no, that one missed. Mortal Instruments. Yeah, another teen flick movie that was based off of books and stuff like that. It was a huge miss. Next, I kind of like that one. Nick Cage. Yeah. I think that's one where he has the ability to see the future, right? Is that the one? Or no, I'm thinking of a different one. I don't know. That one was okay. Oh, The World's End. People are going to hate me for this. That's going to be on the best list for a lot of people. It's going to be on my worst. This is where I was kind of like, I'm going to have to make a decision about Edgar Wright. And it's It's not a good one. That's going to be on my worst list because he's across so many genres. Okay, this is a comedy. No, now it's a drama. Okay, it's back to a comedy. No, now it's a sci-fi kind of weird thing. Now it's trying to be a comedy, but I'm confused now. I thought we were watching a sci-fi drama. But it's a funny movie, guys. Funny. No. It's too convoluted. It's mixed up. And that's what I find with all of his movies, which could work if it was almost like a Bollywood movie where it was 3 hours and you had time to explore the ideas of these different types of genres being mashed together, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Getaway. Selena Gomez and Ethan Hawke. Yeah, I like that one. Selena Gomez. I wish she did more acting. She's actually a fairly good actress. Okay. Riddick. Oh, yes. This was the third one. And I like that one. Katie Sackhoff was in that one. And if you want to see Katie Sackhoff, Riddick. Okay. Insidious 2. Not a very good follow-up. It had some interesting ideas. The Family. Nope. That one was terrible. Battle. Cog. Enough Said. No. Was that one of Gandolfini's last films? Rush was good. So was Prisoners. I was really harsh on Prisoners when it first came out. And I still am. I don't think it's Villeneuve's best work. Denis Villeneuve. And, because of the ending. The ending was kind of like a little bit ambiguous, but then I finally made my decision as to what happened because, it's got one of those endings where it's kind of like, well, you kind of decide what happens. But the performances in it are stellar and you got to watch it simply because of that. Rush, I really liked, Daniel Bruhl and Chris Hemsworth. They have this rivalry for this race. F1, I believe it was, Kurt Lauda, right? Good. It's definitely one of Ron Howard's better films. And that'll be on the best list of the year for sure. Rush and Prisoners. No problems with that. Okay. Don John, Scarlett Johansson, and I guess that was Joseph Gordon-Levitt's first directorial debut kind of film. It was meh. Okay, continuing on. Come on, we gotta get going here. Gravity. A lot of it was shot like with green screen stuff, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Very good. It's going to be on the best list of the year for sure. I felt like Sandra Bullock had a great performance in it, and I love that ending. Okay. Runner. Terrible film about poker. But Gemma Arterton is in it, and you got to see it because of that. Captain Phillips, Tom Hanks, definitely going to be on the best list for a lot of people. It's about modern day pirates take over an oil tanker, or a shipping ship, and the last few moments, Tom Hanks puts on a clinic in acting. And he's not even talking. For the most part, he's just reacting to the situation. Wow. Fifth Estate, never saw it. Machete. I saw that one in the theater. That one was a fun theater experience. It was schlock. It was grindhouse. A throwback to those kinds of films. Great. Well, that wasn't that year though. Maybe that was just a re-release. Because I'm seeing that Machete Kills here was the actual one. That one wasn't very good. No, not very good at all. Okay. 12 Years a Slave will be on a lot of people's list. For me, it's not because it's a difficult film to watch through. It's just the subject matter. But I can understand why somebody would put it on the best list of the year, for sure. The performances in it are great. All Is Lost is a better film, though. All Is Lost is Robert Redford. He's out on the ocean all by himself. He gets caught in a storm, and he's just fighting for survival. I like that kind of a story, and it's definitely worth checking out for that. Carrie remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah, that one was not all that good. That one was, yeah, no. That could be on the worst list for a lot of people. Escape Plan, Stallone and Schwarzenegger for the first time together in a film. Was it good? It was mediocre. Mediocre. Too bad. Jackass Presents Brad Grandpa, one of the worst movies of the year. I was ashamed that I went to see it in the theater. The Counselor. Yeah, that's going to be on the worst list of the year for sure. Because, it was, just a terrible film with the cast. It was Ridley Scott, the directing, and you're thinking, yeah, this should be good, but it was one of the worst things that you've ever seen. I liked About Time. I thought that was good. Dallas Buyers Club will be on a lot of people's best list of the year because of the performances in it. Ender's Game was a nice little sci-fi film that just kind of fell flat towards the end. I thought Las Vegas was fairly funny. That's not going to be on the best list. Come on, November. We're getting through it, guys. Anything else that jumps out at me? I'm sorry, at this speed I'm going to miss things. Thor 2 could be on the worst list for a lot of people. Kat Dennings gets under people's skin for some reason. I really like Kat Dennings, if you know what I mean. Okay. Faust. I didn't realize that they made a film about that. Nebraska. It's black and white. I felt like that one. Bruce Dern. Good performance. Yeah. 12. Okay. Delivery Man, one of the worst movies of the year for sure. Vince Vaughn, not very funny. Philomena, definitely going to be on the best list of the year for sure. This one was a small little sleeper hit. This lady tries to find her son that she had given away because when she had him, she was very young and she was going into a convent. She enlists Steve Coogan to help in this quest, and it's just it's a very tender film, and I liked it a lot. The performances in it are great. Judi Dench was phenomenal. Definitely on the best list of the year for sure. Frozen, if you're a kid, you'll definitely put that on your list. Old Boy, that's a controversial one because I liked it. I really liked it because when I first saw it, I didn't realize that it was a remake of a foreign film, and people say the foreign film is far spectacular and this one is a monstrosity, but I actually liked it because it had Charlton Copley in it doing a good performance, and Palm Clentioff, who plays Mantis or whatever in the MCU. Very interesting. I like that one. At the End of Time. Old Boy could be on the worst list for a lot of people, but I'm not going to put it there. We're getting there, guys. Inside Llewyn Davis. No, too artsy fartsy. Out of the Furnace, one of the worst films. Just the ending. I like the cast and I like the setup. Bale, Harrelson, it had some good performances in there, but it just fell flat at the end. It fell flat. It was kind of like, I don't know what. American Hustle. That'll be on a lot of people's best list. For me, it's not. I only watched it because of Jennifer Lawrence. For obvious reasons. Hobbit 2, I felt in my first go through of this, I said it was the best movie of the year. When you watch those atrocious videos in the cards above, I said it was the best. It's not the best, guys. It was okay, but it was definitely not the best. That one was an interesting premise, and I liked it. I liked the premise, but the execution was too drab. It was too much of a bummer. Yeah. Anchorman 2, that could be on the best list for some people. For me, it would be the worst because it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. It was just terrible. It was cringeworthy. 47 Ronin was kind of an interesting idea. Come on. It's Keanu Reeves doing Labor Day. Labor Day was good. Labor Day wasn't. That was mediocre. I think that's it, guys. I think that's got to be it. August Osage County was one of the worst films because it was just about mean people being mean to each other, and I don't like that. Walter Mitty, Ben, that was your chance to make this big movie that was supposed to be heartwarming, but it missed. The Wolf of Wall Street, that's going to be on the best list of the year for sure because As much as it's controversial, Scorsese, people still talk about it. It resonated with people, good or bad. Like it's about bad people. The movie's about bad people doing bad things and getting away with it. But the performance is DiCaprio, and it really put Margot Robbie on the spotlight. She's beautiful. And there's some speeches and scenes in there. You're just kind of like mesmerized by them. So that's it. Lone Survivor also. I think that one is going to be on one of the better movies of the year. It's smaller. Peter Berg, right? Directed that one. Very nice little film. Obviously, the title spoils as to what happens in that. Okay, so that's it. Let's just move into my little spreadsheet here. I'll pull up some of the titles that I looked at, some of the worst ones, and I'll pick out my top 3 here right now. And I'll put polls to that up in the cards above. Philomena is definitely one that you guys are not going to agree with me, but I think it's one of the better films of the year because of the performances and the payoffs. It's just a nice, really solid film. Wolf of Wall Street, we just talked about. It originally wasn't on my best list, but it has to be because of its staying power and the way that people talked about it. Hey, you know why? It's weird because when I went to see it in the theater, people walked out of it. People walked out of Wolf of Wall Street because it's so on the nose, it's so brass, it's so arrogant, and you gotta, embrace that sometimes. And this movie, it explores those ideas. And my last one, it's between Prisoners and Gravity, but I'm going to go with Gravity because I like the way that Sandra Bullock handled that role, and the way that it ends is just a struggle for survival. And I like those kinds of stories if you haven't been able to tell just yet. And the cinematography and the score is great. Okay, so let's talk about some of the worst. There's some there that you can take a look at. For me, it will have to be The Counselor because it's Ridley Scott. The cast, it's got that double bill factor for it. It's not only a terrible film, but the expectations for it were high, and it failed on so many levels. And of course, I'll agree with my original assessment that The Lone Ranger is the worst movie of that year because it's so and if you are curious about those really old reviews that I did of the best and worst, I'll put those links up in the cards above, as I said. So there we go. That's 2013 recap, reviewed, and that's all I'm going to say because this video has gone on way too much longer than it already has to be. Okay, so next week we'll go over 2014 and 15. Pay attention to the cards and the playlists because I do like to talk about this stuff. Okay, that's it. YouTube is recommending a video for you to watch right there, and you can see my latest one just right here. My name is James, and you're watching Mirror Domains. If you've liked what you've seen, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe.